We gather in worship to find meaning and to live more deeply. Worship creates connections within, among, and beyond us, calling us to our better selves, calling us to live with wisdom and compassion. Whoever you are, whomever you are, whomever you love, whatever your journey of the holy, we're glad you are here. If today is your first time with us, we'd love to get to know you. If today is your 10,000th time with us, we'd love to get to know you. Our welcoming room is in the South Foyer. It is a place for both long-time and first-time people to meet. Our membership team has printed brand new name tags for all of our members. Please come by the table in the South Hall to pick up yours after the service. And if you're online via Zoom, thank you for joining us. The link to our visitor form is being dropped into the chat now. You can use your phone to access a copy of our order of service by scanning the QR codes that are scattered throughout the building, and it's okay if you're looking at it during the service. We also have large print paper copies that you can get from our ushers. Today's flowers were provided by Carrie McGranahan. Remember, you can use Sign Up Genius to offer flowers or your time for a variety of Sunday morning roles. And now let us move into worship with the lighting of our chalice.
Good morning, I'm Ron Milton. On this Veterans Day weekend, we light the chalice, symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith, with words from the UU booklet, "Bless all who serve," sources of hope, courage, and faith for military personnel and their families. What words tell the truth? What balms heal? What proverbs kindle the fires of passion and joy? What spirituality stirs the hunger for justice? We seek these answers, or these questions, not only for ourselves, but for our communities and our society. What are the ways of being with one another that enable life to flourish, rich with meaning? When violence has fractured communities, isolated people, and broken hearts, how can life be repaired? We ask these questions not to arrive at final answers, but because asking them is fundamental to living. And now let's say the words together of our mission, which affirm our shared purpose. Powered by love, we transform ourselves and serve our world.
And we're going to tell a story about generosity. So come on up. Come on up. We are generous with our love, with our love. We are generous with our love. We give and we receive and we can fill our every need. Oh, we are generous with our love, with our love. Oh, we are generous with our love. You know what, guys? You can even scoot up a little closer, even up here. Thank you, Griffin. That was so kind of you to get those carpet squares out. All right, I do have a wonder box today. And I wonder, because we are a faith of wonderers, what could be in it? I'm not hearing any noises, actually. That's odd. Yes. Kino, what do you think?
Air.
Air. I bet there's some of that in there. We've got some pretty smart kids here, I do say.
Markers.
Markers.
Air.
More air. More air or markers? Okay. Robin.
Is it a stuffed animal?
Okay, good. I like that you're going in a different direction there. Maybe. Let's see. Let's take a look. I got one more question from Birdie, maybe. One more idea.
Obviously matter.
Some matter of some kind. Got some science brains here. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to have... Huh. Well, that's not very exciting.
It was matter.
It was matter. There was air.
Boring.
And a stick? A boring stick.
Well, it's sort of like a marker since it's
Well, this stick is going to help us tell a story today about generosity, because that is one of our very important UU values. All right, generosity. I bet you guys have lots of opportunities to be generous in your lives. So I'm going to tell you a story about a kiddo once upon a time in a land far away, a colorful, warm land called India. Happy Diwali to you all. There was a child, and this child lived with their mother in a small hut in a small village. And they were very happy, but they didn't really have much. They had a small piece of land, enough to grow enough food to take care of themselves and sell it at the market. And that was about it. But this child really loved music and dreamed of one day having a drum of their own. A drum to make some music and dance with their friends. But again, they didn't have any money to buy one. One day, when the child's mother was walking home from market after selling some food, she found a stick on the ground. She came home and she offered it to her child and said, "I'm sorry I cannot provide you with a drum, but here is a stick with my love. Maybe there's some magic in it." And the child, being a gracious child, accepted the stick and said, "Thank you, mother, thank you," and went out to play, tapping a rhythm on their way. And eventually that child came across a sad-looking woman. And the child said, "Why are you so sad?" The woman said, "We are hungry, but we don't have enough firewood to cook our food." The child thought and looked at their stick and offered it to the woman to start a fire. The woman was so thankful and used the stick, started a cooking fire, and soon had made some delicious naan to feed their family. Yeah. And the woman was so thankful.
So y'all get some?
She offered some naan to the child. The child took it and said thank you and went on their way, waving the naan to a beat as they went. The child then came across another woman with a crying baby. The child was worried. "Why is your baby crying so much?" The woman said, "Oh, we have no money to buy food to eat. I sell pots at the market, but no one is buying large pots these days. I have no money. My child is hungry." The child looked at the naan and offered it to the woman and her baby. They were so thankful, so thankful. They took it and in thanks, in return, offered a pot to the child. The child said thank you and went on their way, beating a rhythm on the pot as they went. Then the child came across a couple fighting down by the river. The child said, "Stop, stop, stop, why are you fighting so?" The man said, "Well, we have the job of washing clothes to make our living. We do laundry, but the pot we use to boil the water for washing is broken. We do not know what to do." The child looked at their pot and offered it to the couple, who said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you so much." They were so grateful that in return, they gave the child a coat. The child went on their way, waving the coat to a rhythm, until they came across a man cold and shivering. The child said, "Why are you shivering so?" The man said, "I was robbed, and the robbers took all of my money and my clothes to wear." So the child looked at the man, looked at their coat, and offered it to the cold, shivering man. The man said, thank you so much. I do appreciate this, and you know, I am so old. I have this horse here in this field, but I am too old to care for it and ride it. Would you like to take it in return?" So the child led the horse, you gotta use your imagination, and led it on its way, and the horse hooves clomped out a rhythm as they went. Finally, the child came across a wedding party, but the bridegroom was sitting, squatting on the ground, looking quite upset. The child said, Why are you so upset on your wedding day?" And the bridegroom said, "The horse has not arrived for me to ride to the ceremony. It is unlucky for us to start a marriage without me riding on a horse." I bet you know where this is going. So the child looked at their horse and offered it to the bridegroom to ride into the ceremony. The wedding party was so excited, and they said, "Oh, thank you, you have saved the day. Is there anything that we can offer you in return?" The child noticed that there was a band for the ceremony. You got to have music at a wedding. And they had lots of extra instruments. And the child said, "Could I maybe have one of those drums for my own?" And the band said, "Of course, thank you for your generosity." And the child was able to take their drum and go home to their mother and said, "Look, Mother, thank you so much for your generosity. The stick that you gave me, it did have magic in it." So thank you for sharing that story with me today about one of our important values, generosity. It can be a gift to those that we share with and to ourselves.
Good Sunday morning, everyone. My name is Jen Youngsun, and I have the pleasure of serving this beautiful congregation as its minister. I use the pronouns she and her. And for those who would like a visual description, today I've got my hair all the way pulled back into this tight ponytail, and then I've got this bright red jacket on with a purple stole. So today is Diwali. It's the festival of light conquering darkness, the festival celebrating good conquering evil. Billions of Hindu, Sikh, Jain people from all the continents are celebrating this wonderful, wonderful, positive festival. And so we add our chalice light for the universal desire for goodness to prevail. This is also Veterans Day weekend, and so I want to recognize all of you who currently serve and who have served in the military. If you would stand as you are able or wave a hand, can we recognize you today? Kat, did you see anybody on Zoom by any chance who said anything? All right, thank you. Hello, all of our Zoom friends. Glad to have you today, too. The families of service members are also to be honored this weekend, for you have experienced the sacrifice as well. So when we describe Unitarian Universalism to someone who has never met us, we often will go to our 7 principles, right? For example, one of those is our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. But now we have 6 values that we can also list for them. This is relatively new, and it's not official yet because the body, the national body, has to vote on it this June. But one of those 6 values is generosity. So, generosity is also this month's spiritual theme and the topic of today's service. Generosity is our ability to offer the best of who we are and what we have for the benefit of another. It is perhaps our most valuable human attribute. In fact, it may be the singular quality that we possess as human beings that has the capacity to transform the world. This particular description of generosity comes from the Fetzer Institute. They actually printed a report called Living a Generous Life, and it really is one of the most inspiring definitions or descriptions of generosity that I've read. And it's so important and relevant for us and the work that we're doing as a spiritual community. So come, let us explore this powerful capacity that each one of us has. Come, let us worship together. From separate lives, from different paths, from distinct joys and sorrows, we have come to weave the threads of our lives into whole cloth of religious community, to take our separateness and transform it into something bigger. I'm going to read from our book of Joys and Sorrows in a minute, but first we're going to light our candle of life because we just heard from Leslie Rex, and I'll read her words. Our dear mom, May Kathy Rex, affectionately known as Poppy, peacefully passed away this morning, which would have been yesterday, Saturday morning, 3 a.m. at the age of 101 and 7 months. At her request, she will be cremated and her ashes spread across the waters. She asked that no funeral to be held or no fuss be made. The greatest gift you could give to honor her is to keep her in your heart and remember her as loving, compassionate, perceptive, and funny. That's from Leslie and her family. Last week I told you about Jacob Johns, UU from Spokane, Washington, an indigenous climate activist who was shot as he was peacefully protesting the building of a conquistador monument in New Mexico. He has just recently been able to return to his home in Washington, and there's a card for him on the Joys and Sorrows table. If you want to write a little note or sign it, we're going to mail it to him this week. For the people of Palestine and Israel, for the people of Iran, struggling for freedom, actually for people all over the earth who are struggling. Someone wrote in the book, Sweet Memories of Kathy Rex. As we move into the holiday season, I know lots of you are thinking of loved ones who have passed. This one says, our first Thanksgiving without our mom, many good memories. It was her favorite holiday. Safety for travels for my sister's big journey to the islands. To my sister Virginia, may she be well. Someone writes, in joy to be able to walk 1 block. And sorrow for my son not being here for the 2nd year of this holiday season. We miss you, Michael. Love, Mom. We haven't done loving kindness meditation in a long time. So I think today would be a good day to do that. I invite you just to be comfortable. You can open your eyes, close them, do whatever you need to feel grounded. We begin by sending loving kindness to ourselves, because in order to generate loving kindness toward others, we have to be able to feel that genuine love for ourselves first. And so, address yourself. You can imagine your face. You can imagine looking into a mirror. You can hold yourself in some kind way and say to yourself, may I be happy. May I be well. May I be at peace. And now think about someone that you feel deep affection for. Someone, when you think about them, it just brings a smile to your face. Imagine them in front of you and say to them, may you be happy. May you be well. May you be at peace. And now bring to mind someone who's maybe a little bit more distant, a neighbor, a coworker, someone you go to school with, someone who you see occasionally but maybe not know very well. And picture them and say to them, may you be happy. May you be well. May you be at peace. And now bring to your mind someone you don't know very well, and someone that you don't have feelings for one way or another. You kind of feel neutral about them, maybe even indifferent. Picture them and say to them, may you be happy. May you be well. May you be at peace. Broadening out now, let's consider our global neighbors in every part of the world. Especially these days, let's think about the ones who are caught in war and violence, frightened and thirsty, injured and grieving, displaced and exhausted. May you be safe. May you be well. And may you find peace. Next, I want to invite you to picture someone who feels difficult for you, someone maybe that you're in conflict with, someone that you find offensive or troubling. If there is such a person, bring them to mind and say to them, "May you be happy. May you be well. May you be at peace." And now widen the circle even bigger. Let us extend loving kindness towards all beings, human, non-human, throughout the universe. May all be happy. May all be well. May all be at peace. Blessed be. Amen.
Our reading this morning is titled, "Consider the Generosity of the One-Year-Old" by Allison Luderman. Consider the generosity of the one-year-old who has no words to exchange with you yet, and instead offers up her favorite drooled-on blanket, her green rhinoceros as big as she is, her cloth doll with the long blonde pigtails, her battered cardboard books swung open on their soggy pages. If you were outdoors, she would hand you a dead beetle, a fistful of grass, a pebble. And if a moment later she wanted it back, it would be for the joy of the game that makes of every simple object an offering. Here is who I am. In the same way, sun drapes a buttered scarf across your face. Rose opens herself to your glance, and rain shares its divine melancholy. The whole world keeps whispering or shouting to you, nibbling your ear like a neglected lover, while you worry over matters of finance, of relationship, important issues related to getting and spending, having and hoarding. Though you were once that baby, though you are still that world.
You and I were once that one-year-old. And we still have this ability to offer ourselves to others and to the earth and back to ourselves with small acts of generosity. Here, this is who I am. I want to tell you about someone named Nipun Mehta. In many ways, Nipun was a typical California young adult with a bright future ahead of him. After working a couple of years in Silicon Valley, he decided to put everything aside and go to India. Living on $1 a day, eating whatever food he could find, sleeping on whatever flat surface was available to him. He just walked day in, day out for weeks and weeks and weeks, meeting inspiring people along the way and ultimately finding a new direction for his life. Nipun returned home to harness technology for small acts of generosity. His idea to incubate the gift economy projects came from his many, many experiences. And so here's just one of them, one of the stories that he told about his time in India. As he was preparing to leave and come back to the States, one of the new friends that he had made there gave him a gift. It was a little plastic bag that was ripped in a few places, and inside was a collection of small, nubby, used pencils. Now, this friend who had given him the gift had spent most of her life as a custodian in a school in India. One day, she reports, she had this overwhelming feeling, and a question came to her, and a desire overcame her. She said that she just wanted to serve, but she didn't know what she could possibly give to anyone. And so she had this idea to sift through the garbage every day at school and find these thrown away little pencils. And then she would give them to people in the community who had nothing at all. She did this for years and years and years and had this collection of hundreds of pencils. And the gift that she finally gave to Nipun was a small collection of these pencils. The magic of this gift was that it was wrapped in an incredible sense of reverence and humility and love. This was an offering that she gave to him. Here, this is who I am. When we talk about generosity at the level of the material world of getting and spending, the market economy, the ego part, the ego-driven part of the mind, we maybe think about grand gestures, big acts of generosity, something desiring to be recognized. Or maybe it's like giving out of a sense of duty or obligation, maybe guilt or even pride. But here, in this spiritual circle that we have formed, we're talking about a different kind of generosity. It's generosity as an offering of self, our very, very best self. It's about the spirit with which we give and relate to others, relate to the earth, and relate to ourselves. This is the offering of spiritual goods, reverence, affection, compassion, gratitude, along with the pencils and the burritos and the dollar bills. Our aim with generosity is to cultivate a heart-to-heart connection, to be present and kind in all of our interactions. And this kind of generosity that we're talking about here, it can bring some complexity and even paradox. So before we move on to go deeper into this topic, I just want to invite you into a self-reflection. This doesn't have to be shared out loud. This is just for you and yourself alone, okay? So, self-reflecting. Do you consider yourself to be a generous person? Just think about it. And then, whatever answer you gave, why or why not? And I've got another question for you. Have you ever held anything back that you could have given to someone? Whether it's a material thing, an object, or some part of yourself. And do you know the reason that you might have held back? How did it feel to hold back? It's in our very nature to be generous. The scientists, they say that we're hardwired to be generous. It's good for us individually, it's good for us as a society. But one of the paradoxes of generosity is that in today's landscape, even though it's innate, right? Generosity is innate and it's natural and it's just part of who every single person is. There is also seemingly a lack of it in the world today. There's some lack of generous, especially generosity of spirit, right? So, yeah, what is going on there with that disconnect? One researcher suggests that we in the Western world practice generosity in a very transactional way, right? With all kinds of conditions attached to it. And we also seem to have a hard time practicing mutuality and reciprocity, especially in situations where we may see ourselves as having a lot, like more than others. Then there is this one-way kind of generosity, right? So in this congregation, we have community partners. And we say that it's really important to have community partners. But often it's a one-way flow. Like we give to them, and that's our partnership. But it's not very reciprocal and it's not very mutual. And so I hope that over time we'll learn how to be more reciprocal and we'll have more of a partnership. So the point of me asking the question, do you think of yourself as a generous person, wasn't to shame anybody. I hope nobody felt bad in contemplating that question. But you know, self-examination, truthful self-examination is a part of spiritual growth and spiritual development. And that's what we're all here for, right? We're not here just to hang out because the coffee is good and we like each other, even though those two things are true. But really, we are here to grow to grow in spirit and to become better human beings. And generosity is evidence of that kind of spiritual growth, that kind of spiritual maturity and depth. So I aspire to be a more generous person. I mean, I really want that for myself. And I know that there are things that get in the way of that. Maybe you can relate. This is another paradox. So offering your best self to others with the kind of open-heartedness that I'm talking about may take us to very vulnerable, scary places. I mean, think about this gesture of just reaching out and presenting and offering a gift to someone, both hands reached out in front of you. There is a possibility that the other person could say, no, thank you, or I really don't like that, meaning I don't like you. There's all kinds of rejection or betrayal hidden in there. And if that happens enough times in our lives, then maybe we'll start just shutting the doors of our heart. The problem that I've talked about before is that when you shut the door of your heart, you shut out not only the fearful things, but you shut out the wonderful things like love, which can then heal us from these fears. So another paradox. We mostly speak of generosity as offering the best, the very best of who we are for the benefit of others. But I also think that it's very important to learn how to offer generosity to ourselves, to be generous with our own selves, right? There's also the whole non-human world, right? And they're part of this generosity topic as well. I wonder if we humans have lost track of our innate generosity because we've lost our ability to receive generosity. Another paradox. In order to grow in generosity, we must first receive the generosity of the world. And that's not always that easy. This is from the poet of Pat Schneider. Is it possible? Can we receive the generosity of the cup that holds the tea? The chair that stands sturdy and foursquare? The lovely repetition of stairs? And what, she asks, is more generous than a window? Can we truly, at the depth of our being, feel the generous love of the earth, for example? Robin Wall Kimmerer, whom we heard from last week, says, when you really, really feel that the earth loves you, that feeling transforms the relationship from a one-way street to a sacred bond. These gifts from the earth and from the objects in our world and from sometimes from the people in our world come unbeckoned, undeserved, like grace itself. And it takes a generous and open heart to receive those gifts. So if there's a possibility, or there's a way in which that we can receive gifts that is not generous, right? And it's like when we feel lesser than when we receive, or we feel that, oh man, now I'm obliged to do something, like I'm obligated now, right? That is a very ungenerous way of receiving a gift. This is not the best of who we are when we receive this way. But if we receive in a way that creates more joy and more connection and more reciprocity, then those sacred bonds can happen. So one of the other sticky and prickly parts of receiving the generosity of others is that at some point you have to state your need, right? You have to ask for help. Admit that we can't do everything all by ourselves. Confess to our dependence on others, which is not a statement of failure, but actually just a statement of fact of life, right? In this dominant culture that you and I live in, there's a strong preference for independence over interdependence. However, receiving generosity can actually foster our capacity to give generously. Asking for help comes with the same fears, I think, as offering your generosity to others. Because what if you ask for help? And what if you allow yourself to be that vulnerable and no one comes through? There's a lot of fear wrapped up in this practice. What if they betray us or fail us? Before we state our need, there has to be a certain level of trust. And trust is something that just takes time. You know, we have to nurture it just like we nurture a flower. So, you and I and this whole community have an opportunity to practice a kind of communal, collective generosity. The Egan Warming Center has approached us to say that this is a great space for emergency winter shelter. And we have an opportunity to offer not only this space, but to offer our volunteer help to the Egan Warming Center right after service, which is in 5 minutes. Tim is here from St. Vinny's to help answer any questions, and we're going to have a community-wide listening circle about this opportunity. So I hope you'll all just stay put. You can get coffee, but come right back, and we'll have this conversation together. At the beginning of service, Ron posed these questions as our chalice lighting. What are the ways of being with one another that enable life to flourish, rich with meaning? When violence has fractured communities, isolated people, and broken hearts, how can life be repaired? In these deeply challenging times, our generous care for one another can help to repair brokenness and enable life to flourish. Remember that generosity is one of our best human attributes. It rises out of gratitude, it's grounded in compassion, and brings all kinds of other great qualities like courage and kindness and hope. The practice of generosity is the best way to push against the ugliness of the world today. So let's keep pushing together to drive out mistrust and fear by offering what is the best of us, the best of who we are and what we have for the benefit of one another. And in this way, we can help to transform the world. May it be so, my friends. May it be so. Amen. Let's say our closing words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now go in generosity. Remember that the world loves you, life loves you. Return that gift. Go in peace, my friends, but don't actually go. You can get coffee, but come right back.